You ready to film another exciting episode of Real Good at Doing Stuff?
I can't wait.
Gotta be more exciting.
I can't wait.
Okay, good. There we go.
You real good can you do stuff? Are you real good can you stuff? Can you do it good enough? Are you real good at doing stuff? Can you do it good enough? Are you real good at doing stuff?
All right. It's time for another super exciting episode of Real Good at Doing Stuff. I thought today we'd do another Q&A because you guys asked some pretty good questions on the last one, and I'm going to try to get in the habit of answering them as quick as I can. And these are also easy ones for me to do because I don't have to mess with a bunch of video and all this, and I'm kind of short on time here recently, so it's easy for me to pop these out. So let's do one real quick while the questions are still relevant. Before we do that, though, there's a little bit of an issue that is people made me aware of today. With another, we got YouTube wars. YouTubers are warring with me, and I didn't do nothing. I was just sitting here. I'm like Crimea, just out on a little peninsula, and then here comes Russia wanting to smack me around. So, anyhow, I want to show you guys this. Just take a look.
I mean, all I've ever I don't know. I've seen some of these Carolina guys that have YouTube channels or Facebook videos, and I give them credit for being funny and entertaining, you know. But I mean, I'd sooner get tuning advice from who's this? This is the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Any one of those guys. But I've seen, you got to turn off the magic thing. Turn off that cam signal after crank. Well, that means you're getting noise in your cam sensor. You know what I mean? I hate seeing software options added that all they do is help crutch shitty installation and calibration practices where you refuse to diagnose. Where you refuse to diagnose something, right? I mean, Brian knows if I got a misfire problem or whatever, I'm not going to blame my ECU manufacturer. I'm going to get my scope out for 5 goddamn minutes, and it's not hard to find the problem.
Yeah.
Every one of you guys knows that. I hate that shit.
The one thing, if I'm at the track and I got to get it down the track.
Yeah, you're not real good at doing stuff if you don't know how to do that, fix that kind of stuff. Anyway, my bad.
All right. So, I don't really know who that guy is or what on earth he's talking about and how it has anything to do with me. Obviously, he's talking about me. So, if any of you guys know what he's talking about or whatever, post it in the comments. Because I think it's interesting. But anyhow, it's amazing. I guess that guy's just, it's YouTube channel envy. He's just not, he's not up to speed here. So anyhow. So let's look at some questions. You guys, like I said, post if you know what this is about or whatever, post in the comments because I'm in the dark. I don't know what on earth this guy's going on about, and I'm curious. Anyhow, let's read through some of these questions. The first one here is, any recommended reading on tuning, engines, chassis, etc., particularly anything beyond your typical car tech books? I like texts that get deep into the theory and math. Okay. Good question. So, TV timeout. Hold on just a second. I got some books. I'm going to show you. All right. Time in. The CarTech books, I seem like I remember some of those from when I was much younger. I bought some of those books about turbos and this, that, and the other. And some of those are good. I wouldn't not recommend those, so I probably learned a little bit reading them. One thing I remember about them is they referred to the turbo exhaust housing as a nozzle. And that's a word that we've kind of lost in the turbo world for whatever reason. It's a really good word. We should refer to them as nozzles because most turbo guys don't understand what's going on with that thing. And a nozzle is actually a really good way of describing it. And for some reason, we don't call them nozzles anymore. We call them housings. But anyhow, a lot of the thing with those books back then is a lot of them, even then, seemed kind of outdated. So they were just kind of older. Maybe there's some good ones out now. I don't know. But I do know a couple books that I've read that have been really influential on me. And this is the first one. You can see that. There's actually 3 of these. There's 3 different ones. It's Smokey Yunick's autobiography. And they are fascinating. They're some of the best books I've ever read. They're written just like he would say stuff. There's no ghostwriter going in there and making it acceptable for the English professor. And that's what makes them so great. They're very entertaining. Even if you're not into racing, I think they would be entertaining for a lot of people. They're fantastic. I don't know if you can get these anymore. They came from the Carbon Press. Carbon was the name of his dog, one of his dogs. And I don't know if you can get them anymore, but if you can track them down, I highly recommend it. It's all about even his experience as a bomber pilot in World War II. And it's a really unique look into a very creative mind and a mechanical genius. So if you're a person like me, that's a fascinating thing to be able to do, is look at how a guy like that thinks. And I can't recommend these books enough. They're fascinating. They're not going to tell you about the latest and greatest turbo or boost controller or whatever, but they're going to tell you how one of the most brilliant mechanical minds that the automotive world has ever known thought a little bit. And that's a great thing. Another one here. Has nothing to do with cars whatsoever, but I stumbled on this in the bookstore one time years ago when I used to read before this thing ruined my brain. But is this? That's Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. And it's a book, I believe, by Richard Feynman, who was a famous, maybe theoretical physicist, right? And he was just a unique character, thought outside the box, and kind of a nonconformist. And so I like this book for pretty much the same reason. Just it's kind of you get to look into a brilliant man's mind a little bit and see how he thinks about things and how he analyzes things. So you might find this interesting. Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. And both of these books, like I say, you don't have to be in cars to enjoy them. They're just very interesting, and it'll make you laugh, and they're good stuff. Sometimes stuff like this, I think, can be more stimulating than a technical book. Nothing against those, but when you ask me that question, those don't come to mind. Those are the ones that do. So maybe check them out. All right, let's see. Okay, Doug Cook's block. Hate to ask, but it's going to come up. What happened to Doug's engine? Do you think it just busted the mains out of the block, or did the crank let go? Okay, I haven't seen, the motor hasn't been here since his failure, but from just the pictures I've seen, it looks to me like not so much the mains gave. I think when you bore those things out for big sleeves like that, it's kind of a double-edged sword. There's not a whole lot of stuff left behind them, and it makes things kind of sketchy there. It's good and bad, But in his case, the applied tune-up is what caused the problem. Not what was in the laptop, but the fact that there was no fuel pressure due to some other issues, and therefore the motor's running super lean and just beating the hell out of everything the whole way down the track on a couple passes. And that's hard to survive no matter what you got. You can have billet everything. It's not going to stand that for long, if at all. So it's one of those things like, if that was right, it may have lasted another years before it broke apart. I feel like the failure that happened was probably the way of all flesh with that type of stock block type situation. It's eventually going to happen, probably. But obviously with the effective tune-up being a lean detonating mess, then you're on borrowed time. And there wasn't much to borrow in this case. So that's my take on that. I haven't had my hands on any of the parts yet. We're going to start on a new one with a little bit different tact. But that's my take on that. I've mastered the up arrow key. Does that make me a professional tunerator guy? There's a school I need to attend for full certification. Yeah, you can attend this guy's school. He knows it all. So call him. But other than that, does that make me a professional tunerator? If you're good enough to charge for it, sure it does. If you're winning races, you're real good at doing stuff in my book. You don't have to have any certification. Those victory laps that's all the certification you need in my world. So somebody outruns me, then they're just better at doing stuff that day, and that's how it is. Will you be doing any FuelTech tuning style videos in the future? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. It's possible. Right now I'm kind of more concentrated on the Holley thing. That's what I generally use. So I wonder if you could dive into wheel speed changes you make to traction control on a no prep versus, I assume that means prep track. I notice my wheel speed is much higher than on a good surface, but I'm not losing the tire yet. I know more time playing with things, I can find a spot where I do lose the tire, but wondering if you have some knowledge for things to look for. So the way we handle that on, say, a no prep car like Beer Money versus a Radial car couldn't be more different, right? On Beer Money, I'm pretty much parking it on the drive shaft path and the profiler the whole time, and we're just spinning the crap out of it the whole way. Now, if it exceeds things, we jerk it and get it back under control. But I wouldn't, it's not hooked up, and a lot of that is going to come down to your driver, how much they can tolerate, and the car itself, is it going straight, so I don't know, on a sketchy track in a car like Beer Money, we're jerking the tire back under control maybe 10, 15, 20 times in a pass, It's that big of a deal, Whereas with the Radial tire car, obviously that is not happening, it's a totally different strategy. We're not trying to slip anything if we can avoid it. Do I offer a service of remote tuning, build global files, and help with a new car getting up and running with Holley EFI? I do some stuff like that. I don't really go after it because I don't have a lot of time. I tune some of my guys remotely. I try to avoid the job of being the remote tuner guy on new projects and stuff, because I don't really know your situation, and that's just not what I do. I've done it in the past, but I don't really go after it like that. And I'm a hands-on guy. I like to be at the track, and I think that's important, because it just works. I can't tell what the track looks like from 800 miles away, No, don't get me wrong. I do remote tuning with customers of mine that are longtime customers, and it works fine. But it's not something I go after. There's this limited time in the week. Why the use of multiple computers, Holley/Davis? Holley has TC, doesn't it? Okay, good question. Yes, the Holley does have TC. It's kind of like an internalized version of the old ARC module, I think, from MSD. So if you're familiar with that, you're probably familiar with the Holley version. The Davis, in my opinion, is much faster and more refined. And, also visually, it's a lot easier to look at the drive shaft the way it is, in my opinion, in the Davis. But it's just quicker and gooder. It's more expensive, but if you have a high buck car, then it's something, in my opinion, you should consider investing in. But it's all about what you're working with. If you've got a $10,000 little street strip car, then you probably don't want to spend $3,500 or whatever on high end traction control. So it's about your budget and what you need. Okay. Do I have any success with Holly TC? If so, any plans for a video too? Yeah, we might do that. Actually, I use Holly TC on a few cars. Mark Rogers being one of them. So maybe maybe we'll do an episode of More Chains and Brains and look at that a little bit. At some point, it's probably going to have Davis on it as well. But the Holly stuff does work. There's actually one thing in there that I'm trying to get the powers that be at Holly to modify a little bit so we can kind of use both at the same time. That the Holly does really well, and it's an excellent power management tool, right? Maybe more on that later. Okay. Mostly commenting for the algorithm. Good. Comment. Tell me what a fool I am. Do you use, except for that guy, I don't like that guy, the other guy. Do you use laser or just travel sensors for wheelie control? Do the rugs you tube even need wheelie control at that level? Do the rigs you tune, maybe? Okay. So, yes, we do a lot of wheelie control. My personal preference of how to do it, this is one of those things where there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and I'm not going to tell you that one way is better than the other. I'll tell you how I do it. I generally do it with a VPS, the Davis VPS, which measures pitch, right? And then I build a 2D table in Holly that references this pitch data, and I'll pull timing based on that. And once you've got some data and figured that table out, that works really well. I have great success with that. Obviously, the best way to have wheelie control is to mechanically get the car where it's not going to get into a wheelie, and combined with the correct power management strategy to avoid that. But it's nice to have something running in the background if you miss it a little bit or if something happens. You got another option there, But like I say, a lot of guys do it with lasers. Hey, if it works for you, that's good too. Like I said, my preferred method is the VPS, referencing the 2D table. Works great. Interview with Greg Slack should be cool. Yeah, that's going to be great. We're definitely going to do that. Bring on the chains. Yep. Sure. You talk about radial racing or suspension, how to get it down the track if it's spinning. Okay, we may cover that at some point. A quick thing about that with the radial suspension, right? There seems to be there's more than one way to get down the track. There are people that tell you that it has to be a certain way, or it's not going to work. If it's a radial car, it's got to be this way. Okay, well, maybe so. And I'll give you an example. This past week, I was at Huntsville with Justin Martin, and we were not good at doing stuff at all. It was a mess. The track was super tricky. They were having trouble with it, and eventually it was just kind of a circus. But it was really cold, and the guys were just struggling with the racetrack, and But at the same, hardly anybody was getting down it. And they were canceling the night sessions, trying to get it done in the day, and it was just a mess. But what I'm getting at is, in the second round, we got put out by Tim Kincaid in his new car. Well, he went down about every time. I know he went a 12, an 11, a 12, and against us he went a 09. Well, I don't know what happened after that. I don't know. It's not the absolute fastest thing in the world, but the track was super sketchy, and he's going down every time, right? Well, I do know this. Now, years ago, when he would come around here, if I remember right, that car always run in squat. Right? Well, a lot of people tell you that won't work. Well, it always run in squat, and the damn thing always went down the racetrack. And I can't help but wonder if that new car is still set up in squat, not anti-squat, and for whatever reason, if it just don't work out a little bit better on that type of racing service. Who knows, Now, obviously, I don't think the world's fastest radial cars are ever run in squat. They all seem to be in anti-squat. But, hey, he put us on the trailer, and I'll bet that thing's in squat. So there's, I don't know. Think about that. All right. And we'll all of this stuff will get covered over coming episodes. We'll talk about this, that, and the other, and who knows what. Tuner or machinist first? That's a good question. Well, I don't really consider myself like a machinist. That's a different thing than we machine stuff, but I think the better question would be tuner or engine builder first, right? And I would say, I don't know, neither one really. To me, they're kind of one hand washes the other, and there's a lot of engine builders that don't ever go to the racetrack, and a lot of tuners that don't build engines, and they're successful, but to me, it always made sense I could never separate the two, right? And a lot of times I think that works out. It's maybe not the best way to make money, for sure. I guarantee you that. But in the big picture, I think you develop a better understanding of what's actually going on in these motors, and there's a direct connection between, all right, well, yesterday we did this, we run X amount of time and this amount of fuel, and we sent the rods right out the bottom. Okay. Well, sometimes you might not know what really happened at the track if you're just the engine builder back at the shop, Sometimes you'll get an incomplete picture. I know this because I've been at the track under certain situations, and I'll hear how the racer would describe what happened, and I'll think, well, if the racer told me that Monday morning when he brought the motor in, I would think this. But I was actually there, and I wouldn't have described it that way. They're kind of missing the point there, and if I wasn't there to see it with my own eyes, I might misunderstand something here and not be able to connect the dots. So I think it's important to do both, even if it's financial suicide. But we'll see. So I don't know if I could say which one I do first. Like I say, one hand washes the other. But anyhow, that's enough for today. Comment, like, subscribe, all that. You're not going to get to check out the best TV show on the internet if you don't know that it's happening, so you need to subscribe and comment and stuff. That's just how it is. But yeah, that's enough for today. 10-4, over and out.